Across the sands of time, entire civilizations have risen, flourished, and then vanished, leaving behind tantalizing clues and haunting mysteries. Today, we're diving into the legends and truths behind Atlantis, the Indus Valley Civilization, and the Ancestral Puebloans, three lost worlds that continue to captivate our imaginations. Were they victims of natural disasters, wars, economic collapse, or something more mysterious? Let's uncover the forgotten cities and civilizations that history almost erased, and the lessons they leave for us today. The story of Atlantis comes from the ancient Greek philosopher Plato, who described it around 360 BCE in his dialogues Timaeus and Critias. Plato portrayed Atlantis as an advanced, wealthy, and militarily powerful island nation that eventually grew corrupt and was destroyed by the gods. Was Atlantis real? Some scholars suggest it could be based on the Minoan civilization on Crete and Thera, modern Santorini, which collapsed after a catastrophic volcanic eruption around 1600 BCE. Others think Atlantis was purely allegorical, representing Plato's philosophical ideals about governance, morality, and hubris. Despite decades of underwater exploration and wild theories pointing to the Caribbean, Antarctica, and Spain, no archaeological proof of Atlantis has ever been found, keeping the legend alive in literature, pop culture, and science fiction. There are many theories about where Atlantis was: in the Mediterranean, off the coast of Spain, even under what is now Antarctica. Pick a spot on the map, and someone has said that Atlantis was there, says Charles Orser, curator of history at the New York State Museum in Albany. Every place you can imagine. Plato said Atlantis existed about 9,000 years before his own time, and that its story had been passed down by poets, priests, and others. But Plato's writings about Atlantis are the only known records of its existence. Still, Ballard says, the legend of Atlantis is a logical one, since cataclysmic floods and volcanic explosions have happened throughout history, including one event that had some similarities to the story of the destruction of Atlantis. About 3,600 years ago, a massive volcanic eruption devastated the island of Santorini in the Aegean Sea near Greece. At the time, a highly advanced society of Minoans lived on Santorini. The Minoan civilization disappeared suddenly at about the same time as the volcanic eruption. But Ballard doesn't think Santorini was Atlantis, because the time of the eruption on that island doesn't coincide with when Plato said Atlantis was destroyed. Rom believes Plato created the story of Atlantis to convey some of his philosophical theories. He was dealing with a number of issues, themes that run throughout his work, he says. His ideas about divine versus human nature, ideal societies, the gradual corruption of human society, these ideas are all found in many of his works. Atlantis was a different vehicle to get at some of his favorite themes. The legend of Atlantis is a story about a moral, spiritual people who lived in a highly advanced utopian civilization, but they became greedy, petty, and morally bankrupt, and the gods became angry because the people had lost their way and turned to immoral pursuits, Orser says. As punishment, he says, the gods sent one terrible night of fire and earthquakes that caused Atlantis to sink into the sea. The Indus Valley Civilization, flourishing between 2600 to 1900 BCE, stretched over an area larger than ancient Egypt and Mesopotamia combined. Unlike other ancient societies, the Indus people excelled at urban planning. Cities like Mohenjo-Daro and Harappa had gridded streets, drainage systems, multi-story homes, and centralized marketplaces. Their standardized weights and seals suggest a highly organized economy, possibly controlled through trade rather than royal edicts. However, their writing system, the Indus script, remains undeciphered, leaving much about their political structure, religion, and daily life a mystery. Around 1900 BCE, the civilization began to decline. Evidence points to a drying up of the Sarasvati River, linked to climate change, which devastated agriculture. Without stable food supplies and trade networks, populations moved eastward, giving rise to later Indian cultures. The Indus people's silent ruins still challenge historians today. What knowledge, what arts, what ideas vanished along with them? How and when the civilization came to an end remains uncertain, and no uniform ending need be postulated for a culture so widely distributed. The decline probably occurred in several stages, perhaps over a century or more. The period between about 2000 and 1750 BCE is a reasonable estimation. The collapse of the urban system does not necessarily imply a complete breakdown in the lifestyle of the population in all parts of the Indus region, but it seems to have involved the end of whatever system of social and political control had preceded it. After that date, the cities as such, and many of their distinctively urban traits, the use of writing and of seals and a number of the specialized urban crafts, disappear. The end of Mohenjo-Daro is known, however, and was dramatic and sudden. Mohenjo-Daro was attacked toward the middle of the 2nd millennium BCE by raiders who swept over the city and then passed on, leaving the dead lying where they fell. Who the attackers were is matter for conjecture. The episode would appear to be consistent in time and place with the earlier invaders from the north, believed to be Indo-European speakers, into the Indus region as reflected in the older books of the Rigveda, in which the newcomers are represented as attacking the walled cities, or citadels, of the aboriginal peoples and the invaders' war god Indra as rending forts as age consumes a garment. However, one thing is clear. The city was already in an advanced stage of economic and social decline before it received the coup de grace. Deep floods had more than once submerged large tracts of it. Houses had become increasingly shoddy in construction and showed signs of overcrowding. The final blow seems to have been sudden, but the city was already dying. From about 900 to 1300 CE, the Ancestral Puebloans built astonishing settlements in the American Southwest. Chaco Canyon was a major ceremonial center with massive multi-story buildings aligned with astronomical events like solstices and equinoxes. Mesa Verde's cliff dwellings reveal complex community structures built under sandstone overhangs for protection and strategic advantages. So why did they vanish? Drought cycles, confirmed by tree ring studies, led to food shortages. Meanwhile, overpopulation strained resources, and growing tensions may have sparked internal conflict. Many scholars believe the Puebloans didn't simply vanish. They migrated, evolving into modern Native American tribes like the Hopi, Zuni, and Pueblo peoples. Their architectural genius and cultural resilience continue to inspire admiration today. Beyond these three, history is rich with vanished cities and cultures. Great Zimbabwe, a massive stone city in southern Africa, abandoned around 1450 CE, possibly due to resource depletion. Angkor, once the heart of the Khmer Empire, its vast temple complexes like Angkor Wat fell silent after political strife and climate shifts. Tikal, a major Mayan city in modern Guatemala, swallowed by the jungle after the Maya collapse around 900 CE. Each tells a similar story, rising through ingenuity, falling through environmental pressures, conflict, or both. Whether it was Atlantis sinking into the sea or the Indus cities drying into dust, certain patterns emerge across lost civilizations. Climate change and environmental stress, resource depletion and economic collapse, internal conflict, invasions, or migrations, inflexible social systems unable to adapt to change. Ultimately, their stories serve as powerful reminders. Greatness is fragile when adaptability is lost. Atlantis, the Indus Valley, the Ancestral Puebloans, and so many others, these lost worlds remind us that human achievement can be breathtaking and heartbreakingly temporary. What hidden city would you love to explore if you could? Share your thoughts below, and don't forget to like, subscribe, and tap the bell for more journeys into the lost chapters of human history.